Have a caller on the line, and we would like to take the question or comments from our caller. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm absolutely here. And this is Shiv Cliff. How are you?
Hi, Shiv. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. And I've been watching the show from the beginning, and it's an awesome discussion.
Can we have a little more volume in the studio?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, like I said, the discussion is one of the very powerful discussions that we need to have today. And quickly, here is my point. When we talk about dreams, we should also talk about the dreamers. And in my opinion, the dreams are still there, but unfortunately, the dreamers are not here. The dreamers are elsewhere, all across the world. And that's a problem. So, so in other words, what I'm trying to say is that it's time that the Americans start thinking how do we go from here, instead of just looking at what has gone wrong, what has gone bad, and so on and so forth. The world is changing. If somebody could dream in India, if somebody could dream in China, and somebody could dream in Philippines, it should be possible and more possible for Americans to dream here and achieve. That's what I want to say.
That would be nice, I guess, in a perfect world. But I think, as we have been discussing, the dream changes, just like definitions of family change. So you can have a family that's basically a same-sex couple, and they have an idea of American dream, but yet you have certain segments of the population who are trying to make sure that they can't fulfill their American dream. So there's an inequality in the system.
And you have some people, their American dream is just to attain health care. There are people with pre-existing conditions who don't have health care, and they can't even pay for it.
Well, I think part of what the caller is saying is still a reality and has always been part of the American dream. Right. Who built America? People from elsewhere. Yeah. And so you still have people from elsewhere, from other parts of the world, some legally, some illegally, some brought as slaves, some brought as free men. But the experiment was an experiment that had a global push. And for me, it's comforting in some sense that the dream is still alive and possibilities are still there. When you ask the question, how many people are trying to get into Russia as opposed to the United States?
That's exactly.
How many people are trying to get to the United? And the reason why there's a push to come is because the dream is still alive. The dreamers are still around the world. But the evolution of the dreaming has been part of the challenge.
Exactly. Can I just interrupt for a second?
Yes.
Like the professor, like what the professor was saying. For example, I know of a radiologist based in India, like about 5-6 years ago. So he came up with this idea that in the emergency rooms here in the U.S. In the night, if there's a serious accident or anything like that, there's no radiologist available at the time. And so he came up with an idea that he was a board certified radiologist here in the U.S. He went back to India and set up a radiology whatever. And so his service to the U.S. is very simple. In the night, if there's a need for a radiology report, they can fax or scan the X-ray and send it to him, and he will instantly give a radiology report. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that, like what the professor was saying, the dream, everybody else is now able to see their dreams in the U.S. They are in India, they're in China, they're in Malaysia, but they're achieving their dream based on U.S. But we no longer look at the rest of the world. We are trying to see what we can do in Russia, like what the professor said, what we can do in India, what we can do in Germany. We are trying to do everything here in the U.S., which means we still have not come to terms with the fact that it's a globalized world from now.
Okay. Thank you, caller.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Well, my mission in life, as I see it, is to try and enable the child of a single mother born in Baisley houses or the 40 projects, that they can become full-fledged, happy and successful. That's if I can contribute to that. Any child born to a single mother in a low-income situation is destined to be a failure and not to fulfill any dreams or aspirations. He has no dreams. I want to change that. I want to see that change, and we change it. How do we change it?
How do we change that? How would you go about that?
It's a long story. We have to change it with the families. First of all, when I go to a PTA meeting, or I go to a political meeting, or I go to a church meeting, I see 85% women, 90% women, and 10% men. You know,
If that much sometimes.
So we got to change that dynamic. We got to get our men folk more involved to take responsibility. We got to do that.
And why aren't they involved? Why is such a low turnout from the men?
Well, let's
What's
look
going
at
wrong?
What's
Working
let's say they're working.
I wish that were the case,
what
that
it
they
is.
were working 2 jobs. Oftentimes, there's too many are not facing up to their responsibility.
In a single family.
That's correct.
Family.
But you know what, let me ask. You touched on something that I wanted to bring up. You know, I was doing a little reading about the Industrial Revolution, and I think when the Industrial Revolution came in, I mean, we were all looking to do, you know, more work in less time and have more leisure time. Isn't that part of why we work so hard to have more leisure time? But now, most families, both the husband and the wife work, and maybe each of them have more than 2 jobs. So instead of life becoming a little easier, we're working twice as hard for almost half as much. So what happened along the way?
We decided we needed more.
Yeah. Consumerism.
You know, once
Exactly.
again,
That
the
consumerism.
values,
The
you know,
values.
Another reality
became
to me
misplaced.
that happens, and that is that it is easier for a woman to negotiate in society than it is for a man. I just think it's easier. I think that the way the society is set up, that it's just been easier. It's easier for us to get jobs. People are more comfortable being with women in many times, and not ever at the level that they can really make a difference.
Right.
But just that, you know, I just think that it's just easier. And also, you know, the nature of women is sometimes different. Women, you know, are easier to assimilate. Men are a little harder to assimilate. And so it's easier for an employer, and it always has seemed like it to me. And I work in a situation where there are lots of men that come looking for jobs, and there are a lot of men without jobs. And many women do have jobs, right?